Hi everybody, welcome to the webinar. I guess we have given everybody enough time to join, so I'll hand over the word to Christian Pauls. Thank you.
Hello everybody, welcome to the webinar during lunch hour. I would like to thank you very much for taking your time and listening to the subject we are going to cover today. The subject is related to digital transformation, but before we start, maybe some practical elements that we could share with you related to housekeeping. We are using, in fact, GoToMeeting webinar. You are all on mute, but you can ask questions below. In fact, in the right pane, you will see that you can ask a question, and when a question pops up, we will be able to answer your question. If you are not having an answer on your question, or you did not hear, in fact, an answer on your question, please do not hesitate, in fact, to resend the question, or anyway, we will, in fact, answer you by mail afterwards. Who is in the call today? So we have three persons. We have Christian van Klappek, which is a corporate performance management development manager at Aexis. We have Stijn Horelbeek, which is regional director in the UK and the Benelux for GDocs. And we have myself, Christian Pauls, as general manager for Aexis. So let's come back about to the topic we are going to cover today. So it is related to digital transformation. I know that digital transformation is a bit of a buzzword, so we are hearing it all the way around. And in reality, we are all going through that digital transformation. We are living it today, but I believe that still some important steps can and need to be taken, especially within the finance department, and even more especially within the finance controlling department. Why do I state this? Because if I just can present myself as general manager from Aexis, I'm also the chairman for the Belgian Institute for Managing Accountants and Controllers, and which is called BIMAC. And BIMAC is in fact the counterpart of the Vereniging van de Registered Controllers in the Netherlands, but we are having, in fact, that organization in Belgium. So I am organizing quite a lot of sessions with financial and business controllers, and we observe for many years now that still some important steps in the controlling department regarding digitalization need to be made. We will show you in the agenda today why we are convinced of this. But first of all, we would like to introduce shortly who we are, or who is Aexis, what is our core business, and who is GDocs, and what is his core business, and who makes, in fact, use of our core businesses, which clients, in fact, do make use of our activities and, in fact, our services. And then we will go a little bit more in depth into the function of the controller and how we can leverage, in fact, the large competence that each of us as a controller has in Microsoft Excel. And in the third part, we would like to highlight this with an example, how we can grow, in fact, from an Excel file sheet into a central model, business model, and still using, in fact, as a user interface, the Microsoft Excel. By the end, within 15 minutes, we will make a short wrap-up, and we will make sure that within 60 minutes, the webinar will be finished. So Aexis is a company which has been created in 1975, so we are already there for a large number of years. We do have offices in Belgium, Holland, Luxembourg, and France. Headquarters is situated in Brussels, and we are working in those 4 countries with more or less 200 colleagues, 200 consultants, and marketing, salespeople, administration people. We are serving several customers, and like you see, we are serving customers like companies in Holland, you know, Albron, Ekeneco, Rai, but also Zelandia, also Sinton, Endemol, and many others. In Belgium, we are serving companies like Skies, CFE, KBC Bank, Belfius Bank, Colred Group, ABN Bev, and others. So what is our main activity? Our expertise is situated in 2 domains. First of all, the domain of business intelligence for finance, and directly linked to the business intelligence for finance is corporate performance management. As you all know, it's a large word, but it covers everything to do with planning, budgeting, forecasting, reporting, consolidation, and data integration. Besides this, we are already for 15 years active in what we call data integration, big data, data governance. It's pretty important because those two expertises in corporate performance management and BI for finance and big data and data governance will meet each other at a certain moment in time, and they will become one. We see that later. So we deliver services in those two domains, and we can be more specific in those two domains if we look to corporate performance management, that we make a difference between two main activities. In CPM, we will have a main activity in planning, budgeting, forecasting, and management reporting, which is most of the time, in fact, taken care of by business controllers. While we also have, in fact, activities related to statutory reporting and consolidation to be aligned with the management reporting, which is more or less taken care of by the financial controllers. If we look to big data and data governance, then it is really focused on data integration. In the past, it was data integration related to systems and applications on premise. Nowadays, it's becoming much more, in fact, data integration with applications in the cloud and hybrid data integration, taking into account the full stack of data governance related to master data management, data masking, and enterprise data catalog. We did acquire a company in 2017, which is called Credon. And Credon is a company in Belgium and Holland present as being the first resellers and implementers of ClickView and ClickSense. We also have a division which is organized in the health sector and the hospitals, in which we have developed own IP to prepare, in fact, from a pre-built application, budgets in hospitals and reporting in hospitals. Why is this possible in hospitals and less in other sectors? Because the organization of hospitals is for all the same. They have the same chart of accounts, they have the same cost center structure, they have the same profit center structure, they have the same pathologies, and being, in fact, one and the same, it's easy to set up an application that can serve those financial departments to make a budget and then report on that in a quick and easy way. As you see, we deliver services from A to Z. We start, in fact, helping the customer if he wants in making a gap assessment where he is today and where he would like to go to in the future. We develop with the customer an architectural design. We define, in fact, an implementation of a tool like Yedox, where we can apply a Scrum methodology or a waterfall methodology. We make a full project management follow-up. And once the application is live and we go out of the project mode, we also deliver quite some application support via our help desk services, which are facilitated by using the Zendesk. I would like to give the word, in fact, to Stijn, who is going to present the Yedox company. Stijn, I give you the word, please.
Yes, thank you. Oh, I'm afraid you, Christian, if you can just keep sharing your screen, I'll work off your slides. So big thank you for joining and a big welcome from our side, obviously. Who is Jedox? I was hoping to see the screen. But basically, Jedox was started in 2002. And it really started as a freeware company, but very quickly, the companies saw the value of it, and obviously then it was impossible to stay a pure freeware, and from there the growth really became exponential. And as you will see, so now over 260,000 users in many different countries. The very important part here is that, if you can see 97% recommendation score, so Jedox really is a very user-friendly suite of or product suite, which is something we are very proud of, and is one of the core bits or parts in developing Jedox any further. And what makes Jedox unique, it really uses a known skill, the Excel likeness, and just expands it and makes it a real enterprise suite. And if we go to the next slide, then we can see that especially this growth, obviously when starting, you start with smaller companies, but in the last 5 years to decade maybe, the growth has really become from the smaller mid-sized companies to real enterprise companies, as you will see a few names. And just to wrap up, so just to show we're now a large and global company, you'll see we have offices in the United States, several in Europe, Western Europe, and then Singapore, and a few in Australia as well. And I'll leave it to that. You will see a lot more further during the webinar. So thank you.
Okay, so I'm picking over again. Okay, so I hope in fact that everybody sees the screen back. So we will go to the second part of the webinar, having a little view on how we and why we should leverage our Microsoft Excel competence. First of all, to introduce this, I would like to stand still a little bit about, we are all financial controllers, we all have a role in a company, and with that role, a certain responsibility is to be delivered. Now, in the finance department, we always see that we have accountants, we have treasurers, we have consolidators, and we have also people in finance with IT skills, and we would even say, or in certain IT skills, they are expert, and I would call them Excel gurus. The main question is, if we look to those roles and responsibilities within the company and the Department of Finance, where do we find ourselves back as a controller? I don't think that as a controller, we do monthly closings and bookkeepings, we do an annual closing and intercompany elimination matchings, we prepare the statutory reports. I don't think that we are really occupied with the follow-up of the accounts payable and the accounts receivable, that we prepare in fact the statutory cash flow or an operational cash flow. However, I believe that as controllers, we do manage quite a lot of Excel templates, we do manage quite a lot of data to create reports, and in reality, I think that most of us, most of the controllers, we could even call them a kind of Excel gurus. Now, to summarize this up, I did develop a matrix in which we could see different roles that we have in the company. So we have, in fact, the accountant, we do have the treasurer, the business controller, the finance controller, the group controller, and the CFO. And we have activities, accounting, consolidation, management, reporting and analysis, treasury, cash flow, budget forecast, storytelling, and mergers and acquisitions. Now, it is evident that as a controller, when we are a business controller, most of the activities that we do are related to management reporting and analysis, are related to budgets and forecast, and storytelling. As a finance controller and a group controller, of course, you're also involved, in fact, in those three activities, but you might be involved in much more activities, and you might be involved in a monthly close, you might be involved in the annual close, you might be involved and asked to analyze some things during mergers and acquisitions, and you might also have some questions on treasury and cash flow. The question is that if we look to those activities, how can we define what is the real role of a business and finance controller? As the BMAC chairman, we define, in fact, the real role as a business and finance controller. He is being a business partner. A business and finance controller can create added value in the company when he's able to explain to the operational and to the sales and marketing divisions what is the impact of their activities, what is the financial impact of these activities they are doing each day. So we could state that the business and financial controller is the business partner, meaning that he adds values to the business by explaining the business what the financial impact is of their operational and sales-driven actions. If we have this, then we can say, okay, this is our main tasks. So we do prepare budgets, we compare that to actuals, to forecasts and so on. But how do we spend our time? And this is one of the main questions that I would like to ask, especially within our journey, in fact, for digital transformation. If we look how we spend our time, then we can say, okay, there are 5 main activities: budgeting, forecasting, management reporting, analysis, and by the end, storytelling. Why by the end storytelling? Because the storytelling is, in fact, the explanation that as a business partner, we give to the supply chain manager, we give to the sales director, we give to the board on the figures that are the outcome, in fact, of what we have done. And most of the times, those figures are related to P&L. Now, to prepare this, it's not such so evident. So we find back a lot of information, a lot of data in different data sources. And as you see on the left, you have data sources which are related to enterprise resource planning. You have data sources which are related to CRM. You have data sources related to HR. And you have data sources related to general ledger, analytical accounting, accounts receivable, and account payable. It is quite possible, and I'm convinced that each of these data sources might be used to prepare, in fact, and to compare our budgets with actuals, our forecasts with budgets with actuals, and to have, in fact, the preparation of a full management report by division, by entity, by product, by customer group, and other. But everything starts in capturing that data. And we capture data actually today by having queries directly interrogating the ERP, SAP data source, or the SAP BW, or the Infor or Oracle, whatever. Or we gather data from Salesforce if we have a sales forecast needed in the budget, if our budget is driver-based. Or the same, in fact, if we need information from our employees who are working for us, our blue collars, our white collars, that information is stored in Workday or in Kiwi, or we get it from a social secretariat. We need that information, and especially also from the accounting and the analytical accounting to prepare the management report. Once we have got that information in a text file or in a CSV file, we have to transform it to Excel. So there starts, in fact, our competences with Excel. We transform already something to an Excel readable file. It is also quite possible that some of you are already using, in fact, one or another kind of ETL and extracted, transform, and a load instrument to get the data, in fact, from these data sources. But once we have that data, what we most of the time see is that data is transformed in Excel files with many sheets, or in many files with multiple sheets, in fact, over all the files. And that is very good, and I think that we are very strong in this. However, can we state that this is, in fact, a journey towards a real digital information? Actually, today, that is still working with the number of data we have. But the data, as you all know, is growing, growing, and growing. And even today, with the Corona crisis, in the future, still a lot of more and more data will be available, impacting the business that we are in today. So if we continue working like this, the effect is that we have at that moment time consumption going, in fact, from preparation of the data and preparation of the data into Excel files, which picks up 80% of our time, where only 20% is left, and even sometimes less, to understand what is in the data, to analyze that data, and to prepare, in fact, the story we would like to tell, in fact, to our business as being a business partner. The question is, how should we spend our time? We strongly believe that in those activities in budgeting, forecasting, management reporting, analysis, and storytelling, that the time consumption should be just the opposite. We should prepare 20%, in fact, spend 20% of our time in preparation of the data and 80% of our time in analysis and storytelling. And there comes, in fact, the next step in the digital transformation. The next step in the digital transformation is that the data sources remain the same. However, the integration is totally automated. The integration coming from the different data sources can be totally automated by using one specific ETL functionality that capture that data and transform it directly, not into an Excel sheet, but rather in fact into one central data model. And from that central data model, we can automatically in fact capture the necessary information to analyze and to prepare our storytelling. Why? Because that central data model has all the integrated functionalities to consolidate, to aggregate, to spread, and whatever, so that we can spend our time easily in how to understand what's in the central data model for data, what it means for the business, using our Excel competences as being in an Excel interface, or delivering the same information through a web interface to our board, and even in fact by mobile. This is where we can, if we go in fact in a digital transformation journey, we build up and integrate an automation and integration coming from data sources to data targets and build up a central data model, we will be able to spend 80% of our time in explaining to the business what happened in the past, what we expect to happen in the future, and take the right decisions. I would like to share with you an example of this, but for this I will hand over the hand to Christian. And if you permit me, I will hand over the hand to Christian.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you for this introduction. And as Christian told, I will take it over from here to show you a more practical example of how to use your Excel skills and leverage these into building your own analytical model, and how you can advantage by using a central database and still leverage your Excel skills. Now, as I have shared my screen, I think you will see my screen right now. I will just start with showing you a starting point as an Excel, which you were quite familiar with, I presume. Can you confirm you can see my screen? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So thank you. So as you see right here, this is a typical Excel sheet which shows financial information. Well, in this case, this is information gathered from an accounting system. And in this accounting system, you will see some information about the cost elements, the cost center, which it is about. There is information about who is responsible for the mutation. On the right side, there's some explanations and comments, and of course the value in euros in the last column. And this is the typical an export which you can have from your accounting or your ERP system, which is in very much of the cases used in Excel to build up reports. Like for example here, there's a pivot table, there's even another pivot table to have some year-to-date information. Somebody has created a report here in which you can see a nice overview of the cost elements and show the figures for a period in time, both actuals, budgets, and the deltas between the prior year information, and also some room to enter data for a forecast and some commenting, which is of course very good and can be very helpful. But what you typically see is, like what Christian pointed out, you still rely basically on exports of other systems or decentral stored data to work on these processes. And that's something we can help you with, and we want to show you an example how easy it is to take it one step further and work with a professional tool while still remain with the flexibility you will have in Excel. As I would like to demonstrate that by using our tool Jedox, I will show you first how we can open the tool Jedox. So I will put this a little bit down. I will go into my web browser, and as it pops up, I will go to my Jedox server environment and log on. And what you will see right here is Jedox opening up, which gives me some options to work on. While we go into some other features in a moment, I would like to start with here on the left side is just a navigation for me as a key user or a power user, which of course give me all the options. And what I would like to do right now is go into the design mode to create a new model. And there are multiple ways of doing that. by just starting here, of course, with new reports. But I would like to show you just from the start, how can we build upon what we already have in Excel. So as I would like to do that, I will just move the screen a little bit to the right. And the Excel sheets which I showed you earlier is this one, and I will put it on Jedox, and Jedox will ask me, okay, what do you want to do with it? I choose to create a database right from the Excel sheet. And by clicking next, Jedox is analyzing all the data which is in the sheet. So all the columns, the data, which are basically what we call dimensions to use in the analytical model. And of course, it's capturing the data as well. So it reads through the data to check upon how it is feasible to load it into Jedox. And what it will rightly do is basically make a proposal for me how to set up the database, including all the levels. So the hierarchies are already there, including all the data which should be in the Jedox model. And that's something which is quite powerful, because this kind of feature allows me just to start from Excel without needing the need for scripting or modeling or putting a lot of effort in analysis. So we can just take it from here, right from the start. So it's taken a little bit of time to move to the Excel sheet. It's taking a lot of time. Let me try it again, because I had it open, I saw when uploading it. Yeah, it's right there. So it's not supposed to take that long. So what I told you, so here Jedox just makes a proposal like, okay, what do we see in the Excel sheet, which we just had open? We see some info about time. We see cost center information, cost element information, of course, the values in euros. And Jedox automatically indicates that we have a multi-level structure in this sheet. Well, what's very important, and what becomes very handy later on, is that you allow Jedox to already create multiple versions. That means that I'm uploading, of course, my figures right now, which is actual data. One of the key capabilities of a tool like Jedox is it's very powerful for planning, what-if scenario analysis, forecasting. And already starting with a version dimension means we can work in a multi-dimensional format, and we can use this structure for every kind of scenario or forecast we want. So let's keep it that way. That would be good to in this preparation. So I'm gonna give it a name right now, and I give the cube what we're gonna make a name right now, which is about cost center data. Jedox already also creates an integration process, because of course we upload data from Excel right now, and we want to do that again. So there's an automatic integration path created. And when I click create, it reads the data, it confirms the model, and it creates the basis to start with. And actually, when this is done, we have our model. We have created our own analytical model. Now, well, there are lots of great features and functionalities to show you right here from this Jedox environment. I would like to go back to where we started, which is Excel, and which is obviously one of the key points in this session, to show you what can we already do right now with just performing these simple steps in just a few minutes. So to do that, I will get back and open up the Excel sheet where we started. So we can use this as a reference. And this information, which is now entered into the Jedox environment, I would like to use to create my first report or my first analysis. So I would like to enter a new clean sheet. Now in Excel, on the top of the menu bar, I have this Excel ribbon. And when I open this, I get all kinds of features which allow me to work with my Jedox environment while still remaining the flexibility of Excel. What I would like to do right now is here on the left, enter a new view, and I want to have a view on the data I just used in the database of Jedox in the created database. So we call it the VRC database, and in the VRC database there is a there are multiple dimensions, and I would like to see the cost elements, so I will put them here into the rows. And I would like to have a multi-year overview. So to do that, I will use the time dimension which has been created in the rows. Now there are some features, and one of the things I would like to do is I would like to show the data on multiple years. So I double click the month. Jedox allows me to work with multiple years, but I'm only interested in this year and last year. So I will put those into the selection. And when I click past right now, I have basically created my first view on the data. So this is Jedox, what you see right here. It allows me to interact with the data. So I can drill into these columns to see the lowest level of data which I have included. I can work with, of course, these data sets which have been included. Well, Jedox is is aware of time, and it already creates a time dimension by default, as I've shown you earlier. This enables me to also open up and see, for example, the quarterly data which has been there, which of course has no actuals for later than Q1 in this case. And for 2019, we have data for all the quarters. But in the end, the data can be stored on a low level, like for instance, the day which rolls up to a month, and a month rolls up to a quarter, and 4 quarters roll up in a year. So this allows me already for some great flexibility. And what I also can do is not only show this on the highest level, but since we also uploaded the cost center dimension, this already allows me to view the data per cost center. To do that, I go on top here and I see all cost center. When I double click this, I get a selection screen, and I could choose, for instance, to only see the administration cost center in this case. And all my data has been changed to the administration cost center part, which of course is a big benefit because this does not, I don't need to use many workbooks in my Excel sheet anymore. I can only use one and just choose the dimension I would like to show. And well, this is just for reporting, and of course I can make some reports on this. I can even use Excel, like graphs in Excel and stuff like that on the Jedox data. This gives me all kind of benefits also for planning. So to demonstrate that, I would like to introduce the version which we created earlier on. And I can do that very simple, in this case, by just double clicking on the title. And when I do that, I would like to add version into my structure. So just like a pivot table, basically, you just release it on here. But I would like to have it on top of the time, yes. I would like to have my actual data, and I would like to also have the ability to work with a budget. So I choose these elements by OK, and basically I would say yes, that's a good start. And now my view is completed with actual and budget figures. Now, as I would like to work with Jedox for planning purposes, I could just simply start by using Excel to enter the data, because Jedox, of course, allows to enter data and read data. So it's very powerful if you want to work with large data sets, but still, yeah, just benefit from flexibility to just enter data. So I would like to fill in this column. What I can do is I can use Jedox, its planning capabilities. And one of the easy way to do that is by using the planning assistant, which is on the Jedox bar on the top right here. If I click this button, I get multiple options how I can enter data in this case. So for instance, from a top-down approach, I could just easily say put in a number, or by going here above to the types, I could just say let me copy data from another part in my model. And a very easy way is, of course, well, I could just choose to use the 2019 data as a starting point. Let me do it for administration in this case is okay. All cost elements, of course, the source data should be the actuals in this case. And we choose to update the values. Okay, execute. And while I am doing that, Jedox is putting all the data from 2019 actual into the budget 2020 column, which of course it uses the spreading, the data spreading, like we also have here. So you see the same figures on the same lowest amount of data. Now there are some options also to work on that on another way. Like for instance, if I go back to this planning assistant in the bar, I can use all kinds of data copying activities, like copying just like I did earlier. I can use like, which is something which you would like to use in case of, for instance, you introduce a new product, but you don't have any reference data, but you do have another product which shows kind of the same pattern, like for instance, a season pattern. Then you can use that as a starting point for your new introduced product. You have regression, you can reallocate data, and you can use something we call splashing, and that's putting data on a high level into the system, and Jedox automatically distributes it into the lower data, the lower detailed levels. So for instance, if I would say my starting point would be a value, I could typically just tick it in right here. So for instance, a little bit more than it says right now. That's a way of doing it. What you could also just do is tick it in right here. So I could just say, let's start with 4 million, for instance. I would just use hashtag for splashing and say 4M, 4 million. And I would just have the data all right here. And all the amounts are rebuilt up based on the distribution which was already in place. The same goes up for if you want to work on this way as a starting point for adding percentages. So for instance, I could say, go back to the actuals 2019 and plus 8%, for instance, which allows me to work very fast with Excel. Also, of course, on the lower level, there's all kinds of ways of working with the data. Now, to use this report, I can, of course, use it in Excel. I can work with multiple users on it, because in the end, we view the data in Excel. The data is stored in Jedox. So it's centrally managed. We can put up security levels, we can put up authorization levels, we can put up multiple input structures for multiple users. So that's of course a big benefit. But what we also can do is we can not only use Excel, but we can also work with Jedox in the web-based environment, of course. And I could simply do that by just using this report. If I would want to work with this, for instance, well, this maybe one change. Let's keep the 2019 out of it then, and just work with the 2020 version. So we have an actual versus budget report. I can upload this to the web, for instance. So what I will do right here is choose on the right side the publish function, in which I will just share it in the Jedox environment with my colleagues, for instance. I would seek for a good place then, and usually let's pick this one better. This is a good way. So we can see this is the uploaded report. I will just click share and convert it to Jedox spreadsheet. Yes, you can overwrite. And right now we have basically shared this report with our colleagues via the Jedox web environment. Now to show you that, I go back to the web environment where we were earlier on. Now when I, for instance, am a user who wants to use this report, I go to the reporting environment. I click on my navigation. I see here that my Excel upload has been here, and I basically see the same information which I already have in Excel, with the same capabilities and the same ways of working with the data. Now, of course, this is a very simple example, and this allows us for a few smarter ways of doing planning, working with larger data sets, extracting data automatically from our source systems, and work with one central managed environment. But Jedox allows us to work with much more sophisticated functionalities. And to show you a little bit about that as an introduction, I would like to go to another part of this demonstration, which is a pre-built demonstration application. It's called One Platform. And this is basically just to show you how we could take it a little bit further into automation of the Excel sheet. This is a fictional company called Bikers Best, a wholesaler in bikes and bike parts. And here we have more something that feels like an application. So I could just go directly to what I would like with my shortcuts right here. I have some shortcuts to my P&L, balance sheet, cash flow statements, some Microsoft Office exports, and a navigation bar on the left, which I could use, for instance, to just show you an idea of how you can also work with budgeting, forecasting. We have a planning example right here. And in this planning example, we basically have an idea of how you could work with multiple budget owners who are responsible for one part of the company, or for a cost center, or for a geographical unit like here. And you can apply a workflow to your process. For instance, here for the budgeting for a quarter, the budget owners for every country are responsible to submit their figures, and we can allow them to do that by opening them up, by allowing them to do the entry. And once somebody gets in, of course, they can send it, and we can approve or reject it. And we can facilitate our process pretty easy by just working like this. What somebody who was responsible for the Czech Republic would see, the budget owner, is typically a screen like this. And in this case, of course, we work with a wholesale company in bike parts and bikes. We work with a driver-based planning. So what you see right here is just the units that could be that are in the budget. And what the budget owner typically would do is just enter the units he is expecting to sell, and it gets in the model, it gets multiplied by the prices. So we have a forecast or budget on our revenue. And in this case, it's made easy for the user to just work with some shortcuts. Like for instance, you have April, May, and June, and you could say, well, as a starting point, again, I would say, okay, copy from previous year actual. He could make it very easy for himself and use Jedox capabilities to do a time series forecast. So just a prediction based on the actuals which are available for the last 36 months. In this case, and then just work on that on a bottom-up approach. So in this case, we have bikes, which are built up on some types of bikes, and he could start with, of course, every level he wants, but it's also perfectly possible to just work on the lowest level. So here on SKU level, we can enter the data as we want. We can still, like for instance, work with, well, let's manage expectations here when we expect a drop in sales, for instance. We could also perfectly, well, for instance, when a marketing campaign gets launched on a bike, and especially, well, in this case, based on the circumstances, I think it would not be, it's pretty assumable that bikes will sell good for the coming months. So you could say, okay, we expect an uplift on those bikes, and we expect we do a marketing campaign, and this will allow us to sell much more of this bike if we put it in promotion.
Christian, can I interrupt you? I see that the time is going on. So we have still, in fact, a couple of minutes to go. I would like to switch, in fact, to the wrap-up. Can you share the screen back with me?
Yeah, we'll do this because it's the end which I would like to share, just how to manage the workflow. Because when he's done, he will just send in his budget or his forecast figures, and then that part of the budget and forecast cycle is accomplished. And that's just as an introduction of how you can simply start with Excel and move forward with the tool Jedox to work on your budgeting and forecasting process based on your Excel data. And again, this is it. So thanks for this. I will give the screen now back to Christian and make you presenter again. Christian, it's up to you.
Okay, you see my slides?
I see your slides.
Okay, thank you very much. Christian, thank you very much for that perfect explanation on how we can leverage as a business financial controller our Excel competences using a central data model. Let's make a quick wrap up. So what we see actually today is that we are mainly focusing on the usage of Excel, but Excel not linked to a central data model. So what we are trying to do is keep, in fact, the benefits of Excel. So the benefits of Excel, in fact, with one central data model in Jedox is that you can leverage your actual Excel competence. And so nothing is lost. You can still use, in fact, everything which you have used in the past, and even more with specific, in fact, functions that JDocs is offering you. The access, in fact, to the central data model can still be done through Excel. So the threshold, in fact, to access the central data model is very low. And as everybody knows that Excel is user-friendly, you just keep, in fact, using the user-friendly environment for not only for you as a controller and an Excel guru, but also for your colleagues, for your business users who have to deliver data, who have to input data for a budget or for a forecast. It works quick, it works fast, because you're working on one central data model. You're not working, in fact, between different Excel sheets in one central file. And it is fully flexible. So these benefits, in fact, we will keep. However, what we will try to eliminate, and what is eliminated once, in fact, you work with the central data model, is possible inconsistencies that can exist in Excel file. We all know in an Excel file that we use instructions, we use, in fact, the VLOOKUPs, we use the SUMIF, we use different functionalities which are very strong, but which are linking, in fact, different sheets to another. So this can create some inconsistencies. Now, if all these things are linked in between different sheets, we also know that making those links is most of the time not so evident. It's rather complex. It's also not having a low threshold to create all those formulas. You need to be a little bit specialized into Excel and to become an Excel guru. And it's also very labor intensive to create it. So that is where we spend our time, in fact. So things that we would like to eliminate in the future, and do remember that we have to grow from a 80-20% ratio, from 80% preparation to 20% analysis. We have to grow to 20-80%, that we just spend 20% time in preparation and 80% on the analysis and on the decision taking. So eliminating all those challenges by having, in fact, one central data model, we will only keep, in fact, all the benefits of Excel. And this is the major wrap-up I can make with the on the example we have shown by using JDocs as a central data model. So having, in fact, said what makes JDocs special, JDocs makes it special because it can be used for analysis, as you have seen. It can be used for planning, and planning can be split in being, in fact, in budgets and also in forecast. And it can also be used, in fact, to combine the analysis and the planning into a management reporting. This is done, in fact, easy and quickly by using Excel as user interface, but in one central business model. We do not have to share Excel files to different users. Everybody gets access in one and the same data model. And that data model, in fact, can be pre-filled and can be built up, in fact, with what we call pre-built content, which is accessible on the JDocs website. It's a platform where pre-built P&L, pre-built balance sheet, pre-built cash flow, pre-built HR planning, pre-built, in fact, bill of materials can be used, in fact, and can be automatically integrated into a data model which starts from scratch. And by the end, what is also making it very accessible is that by having JDocs beside you, there is no need to have an on-premise installation. You can easily, in fact, directly start with JDocs from the cloud, which is the most easiest and the most quick way to learn how to use, in fact, your Excel with the central data model. And it's not only, in fact, limited to finance, but it can be used, in fact, in all the departments of your company. And you see that finance is central. Why is finance that central? Because you're a business partner. And it is up to you from the finance and central point of view that you will explain to management, that you can explain to sales, to HR department, to production, to procurement, what are the actions, in fact, and what are the consequences in the financial translation of their activities, also for the marketing. So having that wrap up, let's have a little bit, in fact, on a call to action. So we have given you quite a lot of information. So the first thing we would like to invite you is that, okay, try to remember what we have explained using your Excel. Take one of your Excel sheets, go to the JDocs website, and in fact try to have a free JDocs trial out software download. JDocs is offering, in fact, I think for 1 month of time, their environment free of charge just to use it. And you can call up, in fact, Aexis consultants who can help you to start up, in fact, that free usage, that trial usage. On the other hand, now you have had a small introduction on the next step in your journey of digital transformation, leaving Excel, going to a central data model, but still use Excel, in fact, as a user interface. Now we can go, in fact, to the next step, where we are going really to the journey of digital transformation, where we will start using more data than purely financial and driver-based financial data, and you will use, in fact, artificial intelligence. So we will do a second webinar on how to integrate artificial intelligence into your finance reporting on the 4th of June. So I would like, in fact, to invite you all to register, in fact, for that next webinar. And the only thing I have to say now is thank you very much for attending our webinar. If you have questions, you can post them now on the question. I don't see any questions actually today. I see, in fact, a question or a remark on data protection.
Yeah, so I might take a few questions. Indeed, the first one that we got was you just show how to enter budget data, but can you modify actual data? The short answer, yes. The long answer is, should you really do that? So, but just to make it clear, Jedox is a platform, and it allows you to basically do everything that you want to do. Obviously, like Christian mentioned quickly, we have like pre-built models, and there are some best practices in there. But when it comes to security, you can lock whatever you like, you can make available whatever you like. So it really is up to the design of it. And then I think what follows on, a follow-on question there is, how long does it take as for a project for Jedox implementation? Well, the answer there is, well, how long is a piece of string? But obviously, as you saw what Christian did, you can start very, very quickly and really quickly create value. And then this can, because whatever you build really quickly is not lost. So then you can, from there, grow with time and by adding more and more functionality and grow to a full enterprise-wide solution. Having said that, on average, our implementation times are quite short. So from small being 15 to 20 days to medium size around the 30 to 40 days. So we're not talking months and months and months here. And when I speak medium size, you already have an integrated solution with, for instance, your HR, cash flow, balance sheet, etc., etc. So I'll leave it to that because we are getting very short. So unless anybody else needs to wrap up anything else, that's it for me. And thank you for staying attentive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice afternoon. Thank you.